Malcolm said of Zionism, of the Zionist state, the Israeli state, he said that this is a white Jewish population, the Ashkenazi population, being given power by white imperialists to remove brown Arabs from their land. He said, so therefore Zionism is white supremacy. In 1979, Open Letter to the Born Again, James Baldwin said the same thing. He said the state of Israel was not created for the salvation of the Jews, it was created for the salvation of Western interests, okay? So when you go through Kwame Ture, Malcolm X, James Baldwin, Toni Morrison, Angela Davis, Assata Shakur, these are all people that cited the Palestinian resistance movement, not even to bring in the Africans, right? Not to mention Nelson Mandela, not to mention Thomas Sankara, who talked about Zionism as being the face of imperialism in the Middle East, right? This is what the Black radical tradition taught me. And the Black radical tradition taught me that if we weaponize our Blackness in favor of white supremacy, then we become apostates from Blackness itself, because Blackness is not a race. It is an oppositional ideology to white supremacy. I'm a historian of Africa by training. Never before in human history had people speaking hundreds of different languages made themselves into one people, developed a common culture so that you and I can relate to one another. You and I can relate to one another on the basis of a shared culture. And we got our Latin and Caribbean brothers and sisters, you know, especially Puerto Ricans and Dominicans, but also, you know, more broadly, right? They share in that culture. That is a miracle. It's never happened before in human history, because what happened is that an oppositional identity to white supremacy came into being, and that is us. And when I see that identity now being weaponized to justify the most heinous genocide in our time, like Harriet Tubman is rolling over in her grave right now. Sojourner Truth is rolling over in her grave right now. Bell Hooks is rolling over in her grave right now. Who did I miss? Do you know what I'm saying? The idea that we would weaponize something as sacred as Black womanhood and then utilize this to justify blowing up Palestinian kids.
You tell me.
You hear what I'm saying.
What I'm
tell
hearing,
me, yes.
Because I want to make sure I clarify before
Yes.
I respond to it, is that because Kamala is a Black woman and she's running as a Black woman and she's not speaking out against things that you want her to, she's using her Black womanhood to...
No, I think, so what I saw a lot of Black abolitionists of both sexes, of all gender identities. I saw a lot of Black abolitionists going hard in the paint at Joe Biden, right? And then as soon as Kamala was at the top of the ticket, radio silence. All of a sudden, people that you could count on that were solid through and through as abolitionists suddenly become apologists for empire.
Have you thought about why?
Yes, of course I've thought about why.
Why is that? Why is that?
Because y'all want butter biscuits? You're only Black faces in high places that don't give us any representation. You represent yourself. Yeah, that's what all y'all do when you get in front. You start running interference for these people against us. Angela Rye, you are not with the people, you are with the establishment, specifically the Democrat side of the establishment. And you're super loyal right now because y'all forced Pelosi and Obama to put Kamala on as president when nobody wanted her but y'all. You didn't even give us an option. Yeah, you're super loyal to Kamala because y'all really believe that's your personal friend. All of them. Angela, Charlemagne, they love telling us that Kamala is their friend. Okay, whoop-de-doggone do. What does Kamala being your friend got to do with everybody else? I'm talking about the car insurance for the everyday American, homeowners insurance, everything continuing to go up everywhere, food, groceries, companies closing doors left and right, illegals flooding our communities, giving them all this money. Listen, this is why people like Angela Rye will never have the influence they once had over the Black community 5 or 6 years ago. It's over for y'all, all y'all. You need to pack it up. You have really ruined your reputation amongst the people, and we see exactly who you are now. You're not for us, you're not with us, you're with the people that's against us. And that's exactly what this Jill Stein interview proved. We know they're hostile with conservatives, but these two are far away from conservative. The problem is they're a threat to their friend. From the beginning of the interview, it was very apparent that she was given the same marching orders to go against these two. Why? Well, I'll tell you why they'll treat any candidate like this except for Kamala, even Jill Stein and Cornel West. That and more coming up, but first, take a second to make sure you're subscribed to the channel and click the notification bell for all updates.
But here's one thing I think we can agree on. Either you win or lose this election. There's really no in between. Dr. Stein, in 2002, you ran for governor of Massachusetts and you lost. In 2004, you ran for state representative in Massachusetts and you lost. In 2006, you ran for secretary of the Commonwealth. You also lost. In 2010, you ran for governor again, this time against the first black governor in Massachusetts, Deval Patrick. You lost. In 2012, you ran against this country's first black president, and you got just less than 0.5% of total votes cast. In 2016, you ran against Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, losing significantly with 1.4 million votes cast for you, but 0 electoral college votes, which I agree with y'all needs to be abolished. But 136 million people voted, and you lost that election as well. So I want to know what the pathway to victory is for you in 2024. It can't just be.
I'd like to provide a different frame.
Shut your mouth. Watch your
I want to provide.
And I also.
Can I respond, please? May I respond?
Do you notice she highlighted that Jill Stein ran in the same election as the first black governor of Maryland and the first black president of the United States? But she didn't highlight that she ran against Hillary or mention that Hillary was a white woman? Yeah, Angela carefully crafted this question, attempting to blow the dog whistle at black people. See again, Angela, this would have worked 6 years ago, but girl, it's a brand new day, and black people are already conscious of what you're doing now. She was trying to flip Jill as a candidate only running against black people, when she also ran against Mitt Romney. And not just him on the state level, but Hillary and Trump too on the national level. They're all white. But no, Angela made sure to highlight the first black this or that. That was on purpose. It was a very hostile, disingenuous question, like all of her questions throughout the whole interview, designed to get black people in their feelings and to look at this from a racial lens. The whole interview, she had questions that she would never ask her friend Kamala, but let me tell you, it backfired on Angela. Take a look.
May I respond?
Y'all bring it back.
May I respond?
Go ahead, Angela. Go ahead.
But I would like to respond. Yeah. This is the framing of the empire and the oligarchy and white supremacy and colonialism, which wants you to feel that resistance is futile. This is about voter blaming and voter shaming.
Let me just No. What you're not going to say is that I'm ever parroting anything at the hands of white supremacy.
Angela, we don't care what you're talking about. You are obviously a puppet of the white DNC, trying to disguise yourself as one of us. Well, how is it that this white woman is up here speaking at the Breakfast Club, willing to speak up for black people, and you're supposedly black and won't do it? Instead, you're speaking up for Kamala and AOC the whole time. It's funny because Kamala is also the so-called black candidate, but won't even mention black people at all. Why is it that so-called black people like Kamala and Angela Rye sound more like that white boogeyman narrative that they're using against other people to scare us with? Angela, let me tell you, we're not scared. And lady, your slip is showing. Pull your dress down, you're looking crazy out here.
This is something that's very different. This is me asking you again. It's a binary choice in an election.
I'm just pointing out that these are the talking points.
No,
these are the same talking points that the DNC
I didn't get my talking
uses.
This is not DNC talking points. This is my research. And sadly for you, the research says you have never won an election. You have been successful in pushing forward certain agendas as an advocate, but you have never won an election as a candidate.
We are the one
is that a
party.
winning strategy?
So, in order to win, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, and in this case, it's many steps. Let me point out, please.
Listen, her trying to nail the point down of this lady never winning an election is hilarious, especially considering that Kamala also never won a national election. She was selected as VP after losing the primary during the last election. And then this time, they just handed her the position and gave her the nomination without people voting for her as a presidential candidate. So yeah, of course, Angela, it's easy for anybody to win if they're just given positions without having to compete.
You need to compare the Green Party, not with those who are taking money from AIPAC and the War Machine and Wall Street. You've got to compare us, you have to compare us to other grassroots, non-corporate.
She told me I'm a white supremacist.
We need.
She said I was parroting the talking points of a white supremacist.
See, that was my disappointment.
May I finish, please?
Like
may I get to my point? May I please
We're actually
get
going
to
to let
my
Dr. Stein and Angela Rye close it out.
Let me.
And the Lauren lady, I don't even know why she's even there. They should have sent her to get drinks or something. Don't know nothing about these conversations. Always sounding like she got her political updates from the shade room. Girl, go get the coffee and close your mouth. It's crazy. They have millions of people listening to them. She don't never know what she's talking about, yet she's on the radio every day speaking on topics that she's not even well versed on. Go argue about Meg the Stallion and get out of real conversations. The whole time throughout the interview, she's low-key defending black feminism instead of listening to understand. Then you saw how Angela was like, yeah, Leonard, you're going to support her when she called me a white supremacist? She's trying to sick Charlemagne on Jill, and that's what they do all the time. Nah, she don't want to let this woman have a fair conversation and respond to her blatant attacks throughout the interview because she's white. And in Angela's mind, she shouldn't be able to respond to her because she's black. If Jill Stein defended herself against her attacks, she's expecting for all the black people in the room to attack her for. It's so childish, stupid, and idiotic. This is a grown, middle-aged woman. And Angela, if you want to know why black people can't take you seriously, this is why. You're losing all credibility with these stupid black feminism tactics. Like, stop trivializing real issues and flipping them into identity politics to fight your insecurities that you got with this white woman. That's your problem. The real adults in the room are trying to figure out what they're about. And I have to say, from watching the whole interview, it sounds like they're standing on business more than Kamala when it comes to black people, Arabs, and Muslims.
Finish, please. Thank you.
Look how stupid she looked. Angela got so mad she slammed her laptop, closing it, folded her arms, and sat there pouting like a 4-year-old who couldn't get ice cream for breakfast. A grown behind woman old enough to be somebody's grandmama. Up here handling herself like a terrible 2-year-old. It was super embarrassing. Up here crashing out for Kamala because that's her friend.
You're trying to compare us to the Democratic Party and the Republican Party with their billions of dollars, or to the Working Families Party, which is not under attack. As a people-powered party, not taking money from Wall Street or the War Machine or AIPAC, we are on very different turf. But if you compare us to all other similar parties, which are not taking corporate money, which are not bought and paid for, which can stand up against endless war, against homelessness, against the climate crisis, against the housing and the healthcare crisis. Campaigns like us, who can actually stand up for the people, they last exactly 1 to 2 election cycles, and then they're gone. So we are actually the pillar of strength among people-powered politics. And what have we done over that period? We have established the Green Party as the vehicle for people-powered politics. We have also launched the agenda, which has been adopted by the progressive Democrats, given lip service, not actually advanced. But whether you're looking at healthcare as a human right, launched by Ralph Nader as a national issue, reparations, launched by our campaign as a national issue in 2012. If you look at free public higher education, bailing out students and ending student debt. You had Congress bailing out the crooks on Wall Street who crashed the economy, but not bailing out homeowners, not bailing out students. That agenda was launched by us. So I think it's not fair, and it is the talking point of AOC the other day, who is taking her marching orders from the DNC. This is exactly what they say, that we are only running for president.
Women of color as parroting talking points instead of us looking at basic math. The one thing that AOC has done that you haven't is win some elections.
She had to stop her again and use identity politics. She couldn't say black on this one. So now Angela is a so-called champion of people of color or women of color. Angela, knock it off. It's not working. These old, tired, and through strategies of 2018 are not working anymore. Hey, all skin folk and kinfolk. Sounds familiar, Angela?
And so when I'm asking you if you won any elections, that is one point. If you want to tell me that you want to push a more progressive agenda, if you want to talk about pushing a progressive agenda, you can do that, not by running necessarily for president. Your track record as a state rep candidate, as a secretary of the Commonwealth candidate, as a gubernatorial candidate, as a presidential candidate are woefully lacking. So I'm asking if you consider going about it a different way instead of telling me I'm parroting white supremacist talking points.
So I can
tell you,
you
hear the facts. These are the facts. The numbers are not on your side, right?
So Dr. Jill Stein, let's end with some closing remarks.
Yes.
On your campaign, and then the Honorable Angela Rye, you can end with your closing remarks.
I've asked my question.
Okay. So as Frederick Douglass said, power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has and it never will. Like so many other Greens, I came from the world of social activism. I spent decades upon decades fighting for healthcare as a human right, for racially just redistricting, which we actually succeeded in, for getting big money out of politics and creating a public financing system, which we actually succeeded in Massachusetts until the Democratic legislature came in and invalidated the people's referendum, which had won by a 2-to-1 margin. They invalidated it on a voice vote and refused to provide the funding for it. I saw our movements being beaten back by the power, the political power of corporations and billionaires operating through the Democratic and Republican parties. I saw that over and over again. We are not making incremental progress forward. We're actually taking rather major steps backwards right now. You know, the disparities, racial disparities, black and white disparities are actually not better at all than they were in 1960, in spite of all the hard work and the lip service that's been given to racial justice and racial equality. In Boston, in the Massachusetts area, the average household wealth of the African American family is $8, considering debt. The average wealth of the Caucasian family is $250,000. And this is not unusual. This is where we are. We are stuck. If you looked at the footage from the floor of the DNC, what you could see were the corporate suites, which started at $500,000 each and went up to $5 million. This is the money running the DNC, running the Republican National Committee as well. These parties have been bought and paid for. They really do not have wiggle room. We're not going to fix this around the margins. We need to stand up and build a coalition. This was my experience as an organizer, a successful organizer on these many issues that I just ran through. How did we do that? You do it by building coalitions. But if your coalitions are only there for the moment, you can get the bill passed like we did with public funding of elections, but they're going to tear it down. Then you need your coalition to remain in power and to remain effective so that you're fighting to maintain your victories. So what I see us having done since I first was tricked into running for office in 2000, running for governor, I was tricked into running for office because I saw we were failing over and over and over again on our aspirations for racial justice, to fight white supremacy, to fight police violence, which also is getting worse year by year, to fight for health care. The health disparities between African American and white population is about 3 years. 3 years of life taken away from African Americans, and that's before you add in the disparities in education. If you factor in education disparities as well, that 3 years grows to 10 years, a decade taken off the lives of most African Americans. To me, this was just unacceptable. I could not sit there and take it over and over again, especially after the Democrats reversed our achievements to get at the core problem, which is the corruption of money in politics. We solved that, and they basically tore that solution to shreds. I could not stand there. That's when I got recruited to run for office, because I began to realize this is about building coalitions. That doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of education. It takes a lot of work. And so I ran in that first race for governor, challenging actually Mitt Romney, who was running for governor on the Republican ticket. And you know what? We had to fight our way to get into a televised debate.
Much like how they had to fight to be seen in this election. And guess what? This interview was obviously set up to be an ambush. That's why Angela Rye is there in the first place. Angela Rye is not the host of this show. Charlamagne got her on there to debate Jill, the guest on the show. No, Jill Stein and Ware, they thought this would be an interview, but it was a setup, ambush style. And it backfired. Go watch it for yourself. The more and more people watch the interview, the transparency, her strong stances on certain issues, that made people look at them as another option. It's not just Kamala or Trump. Like I've been saying for the longest, Black people are looking at other options. Yes, some are for Kamala, but they're also looking at Trump. Jill Stein, she's on 95% of the ballots. And then you also have Cornel West. And if Cornel or Jill can get at least 5% of the votes, it will certainly change our political system. No longer will it be just a two-party system. At that point, they'll be able to get more funding and visibility. And then to win this election, you don't need 50% if you have more than two major parties. You'll only need about 34. The point is, Kamala is not the only option because you're Black.
A A new coalition is being forged. It's being forged in this era of blood and destruction and world crisis. A new coalition is being formed to stand up for peace and justice. The institutional supports are coming out of the woodwork in a way that we have never seen before. This is my third race. We've never seen anything like it. And the mobilization of the Arab American and the Muslim American communities is a real example of a community that is standing up with the incredible courage of their convictions to say we deserve better. We deserve an America and a world that works for all of us, that is within our reach if we demand it.
Well, thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Jill Stein,
Thank you.
Dr.
Great talking
Blair.
with all of you.
Thank you so
Enjoy
much.
the debate.
Great lively
Thank you,
conversation.
Angela Rye.
Very.
Thank you,
It wasn't
Angela Rye.
supposed to be a debate at all.
But it was good.
It was
It
great.
was great.
All right.
It was the best kind of
was
debate.
great.
Yeah.
It's the Breakfast Club. Good morning.
Yeah, Angela was like it wasn't supposed to be a debate, but let's be honest. What did you expect when you ambushed them with your hostile DNC questions? Was she supposed to run scared and fall back? Well, that didn't happen. Instead, Angela made herself look like a fool and an obvious Democrat shield. The link is below for the whole interview. Jill Stein, who's a progressive, she explained how it's not Republicans sabotaging them, it's Democrats that's been going after her campaign, infiltrating to destroy it from the inside, stealing money from them, running smear campaigns, and putting a bunch of lawyers on them to try to get them kicked off the ballot in all the states. Yeah, it's the Democrats doing this to them. They also sabotaged Kennedy, and they've been doing the same thing to Cornel West. Let's go ahead and get the conversation started. Black faces in high places and no representation? Yeah, that's gotta stop. Let me know what you think about this below. Shout out to all the ladies supporting the channel. One time for my sisters Tamara, Mrs. Crotchety, and Yvonne, as well as Caleb, Lionel, and Dr. Troy. Don't forget that you can support this channel as well. Links to Cash App and PayPal are below. Ladies, fellas, want a balanced analysis, want the truth from a woman's perspective? Then you're going to want to subscribe to this channel and don't forget to like and share.